let's go into the female factors, out of which 40% is ovulatory, 40% is tubal or pelvic pathologies, and 10% is unexplained and unusual problems. So let's go into the details of etiological classification of the female infertility. First, most important is ovarian factors and ovulation. And ovulation might be because of hormonal hypogonadism or pituitary disorders, which in turn causes defective FSH and LH production, which in turn causes defective gametogenesis, and hypothyroidism, hyperprolactinemia, all and diabetes mellitus also. These are the causes of the anovulation, and most important is PCOS. So the other thing is endometriosis. Endometriosis is in defective or deposition of endometrium in other places, that is in the ovary or in the tubes. What happens when it is deposited in the ovary? It causes continuous bleeding inside the ova and causes a formation of a cyst-like structures called as chocolate cyst. This causes defective production of the oocytes inside the ovary, defective follicle growth inside the ovary, and it may also cause displacement of the ovary due to the adhesions caused due to the endometrium. The other problems of endometriosis is that it causes endometrial receptivity problems, so that implantation doesn't happen. These are the problems of the endometriosis. So when endometriosis is there, it's a very big problem which we usually face. This can only be, it can't be treated totally, but it can be controlled by laparoscopical approach. So let's go to the most important thing, that is PCOD, polycystic ovarian disease. So many of our patients ask, is PCOS and PCOD same, ma'am, or not? Yes, it's absolutely same. Polycystic ovarian syndrome and polycystic ovarian disease is none other than the same. So what is it? In women suffering from PCOS, we see high levels of male hormones, that is androgens, irregular cycle, they have irregular menstrual cycles, and they have insulin resistance, and multiple small cysts is seen when we do an ultrasound scan. This is called as polycystic ovarian disease. We are seeing in 1 in 4 women nowadays. As I said, this is mainly due to the lifestyle modification, late sleeping, stress, eating more of junk food. These are some of the factors which causes or aggravates PCOS. So what happens when there is a PCOS? The ovulation doesn't happen properly. So the cycles are irregular, and there is high androgen levels, which all in turn causes defective FSH and LH production and defect in the secretion of the gametogenesis. So LH and FSH will be of 2:1 ratio, which should be of 1:2 ratio usually. The LH will be secreted more rather than the FSH in PCOS. So the other, so let's go to the tubal etiology now. So tubal etiology, as I said, in endometriosis, defective deposition of the endometrium can happen in ovary or in the tube. So this causes the blockage of the tube. So usually when the follicle get ruptured, the egg goes to the tube and the fertilization happens in the tube itself. So this is the important structure. If there is a blockage of the tube, it leads to infertility. Salpingitis, which is the infection of the tube, and tubo-ovarian abscess, both are caused due to the PID. PID is pelvic inflammatory disease. This is mainly seen due to the sexually transmitted diseases like organisms like chlamydia, gonorrhea, or we should even rule out tuberculosis in them. So while taking history, we should definitely ask if presence of any dry cough or anything to rule out tuberculosis. And peritonitis. Peritonitis is again caused due to PID. These are some of the factors which affect the tube and causes the blockage of the tube, and which leads to the infertility. Last but not the least, ectopic pregnancies. So if any previous ectopic pregnancies happened inside the tube, they would have been operated and salpingectomy would have been done. So there would be only one side tube or blockage of both the tubes. So we have to rule out about any ectopic pregnancies happened before. So coming to the uterine factors, one of the important cause is fibroids or adenoma, which is of three types: subserosal, intramural, and submucosal. What is subserosal? Subserosal or pedunculated fibroids comes above the uterus with or without peduncle. So it doesn't usually cause any symptoms, as it doesn't affect the implantation process, or it doesn't affect the endometrium at all. Intramural is when the fibroids is deposited inside the muscle of the uterus. Dangerous thing is submucosal fibroid, which submucosal fibroid is the fibroid which is intending inside to the cavity. So it usually affects the implantation process itself. So submucosal fibroid is the dangerous part in infertility mainly. So these are the fibroids. Fibroids are also seen in cervical region also, which affects the sperms to move above. See, during the when there is a fibroid in the cervical region, when intercourse happens, the semen is deposited inside the vagina, and it can't travel upwards towards the uterine cavity due to the fibroid obstructing the cervix. And cervical polyps are also seen, which are also common. Which can also hinder the traveling of the sperms into the cavity. So these are some of the uterine factors. And endometriosis and adenomyosis. The adenomyosis is the endometrium deposited in the muscular region of the uterus. All these factors affects the implantation of the fertilized embryo formed. So these are some of the defects usually leading to the infertility. So next, let's go to the rare factors, that is the congenital uterine anomalies, MKH syndrome, Mayer-Rokitansky syndrome, and I'll just explain the forms of the congenital anomalies in the uterus. So uterine didelphys unicollis. There are two types in didelphys: uterine didelphys unicollis and uterine didelphys bicollis. Unicollis, there will be two uterine cavities seen with only one single cervix. In didelphys dicollis, there are two uterine cavities and also two uterine cervix seen. So next is the bicornuate uterus, wherein there is two corners seen in the uterus. Unicornuate uterus, there is only one corner of the uterus. Subseptate uterus, when there is a septum in the uterine cavity, but it's not fully enclosed till the cervix. And septate uterus, there is a complete septum dividing the cavity into two, which is till the cervix. These are the some of the defects of the uterus which causes infertility. Even though there are defects in the there are congenital uterine anomalies, the woman can readily conceive without any problem and can deliver normally. Last but not the least, let's see about the cervical mucus problem. There are antibodies secreted inside the cervix in few females. It is idiopathic, which affects the sperms directly and doesn't allow the sperms to travel above. These are the cervical mucus problems, and there can also be chronic cervicitis and infections. The infections which affects the cervix and cervical erosions happening, which also hinder the movement of the sperms above. And vaginal infection, chronic vaginitis, fungal infection, bacterial infections, pseudomonasis, fungal infections like candidiasis. All these definitely affect the normal sperm travel. And hormone deficiencies which I've already explained about. So let's go to the detailed evaluation of the female. So what we usually do when a female partner both the couple come. So as I said, when we have to evaluate both female and male together, I've explained what we should ask and how we should move forward with male infertility workup. So let us discuss about female workup. So first we have to take a detailed history of the females, their menstrual history, if the menstrual cycles are regular or not, if there is any excess flow to rule out fibroid, endometriosis or adenomyosis, any dysmenorrhea, that is pain during during periods, to rule out again fibroid and adenomyosis, and whether ovulatory or anovulatory cycles can be differentiated by asking whether they have regular or irregular cycles. And then we have to move to any obstetric history. Any previous abortions happened or any previous ectopic pregnancies happened. So we have to ask them clearly about it. And we have to clearly ask if they've used any oral contraceptives for more than 1 year or 2 years, which again in turn lead to hormonal imbalance and causes infertility. So we have to ask detailedly if they've used any oral contraceptives before, or they've kept any IUCDs before, which again causes if they're using IUCDs of more than 5 years, it may causes PIDs, pelvic inflammatory disease. And we have to ask details about any white discharge, which is foul smelling associated with any itching, to rule out cervicitis, vaginitis, and PID. And we have to ask any chronic pelvic pain or chronic right iliac fossa or left iliac fossa pain to rule out again PID. So all these details we have to completely ask for, and we have to ask in detail about the intercourse history, which I've already explained. So next, we have to ask about any medical history, if they have got any thyroid which have been diagnosed before, or any diabetes mellitus, or any asthma, and if they are on any medications like antidepressants, antipsychotics, or chemotherapeutic drugs. And we have to ask if they are the weight, if they have like chronically like sudden increase of any weight, to rule out PCOS, and to rule out hypothyroidism. So then we have to check for their BMI, weight by height ratio. We have to detailedly check, and then we have to do physical examination. In physical examination, we have to check if there are any scars. If the patient doesn't give proper history, we can check for the scars if they have undergone any laparoscopical surgeries before, or any surgeries for ectopic or anything. We have to check for scars on the skin, and we have to check if there is any lump or swelling seen inside the abdomen. And then moving to pelvic examination, we have to see the vagina, if it is healthy or infected. We have to see the cervical os, if there is any erosion in the cervix. And we have to palpate the uterus if there is any bulky uterus, to rule out fibroids, adenomyosis, and endometriosis, or any pain with the movement of the cervix, or any pain in the fornices, by doing examination of the fornices to rule out any PIDs or infections in the cervix. So this is the detailed physical examination. Last but not the least, we have to check for the breast for any galactorrhea, or any secretions happening from the breast, or any breast lumps. And we have to check for the thyroid. We have to do thyroid examination. So this is the detailed examination of the female.